welcome back. It is so good to hear that music again. I've missed you guys so much. Um, yeah, it's the USL show. We're talking all things USL show. As you can tell by the title, it's some hot streaks and hotter seats. I mean, some people are going on some absolute heaters, some shocking people sitting in first, and some people a little bit lower than we thought. But we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But first, let's talk to our crew for this weekend. This weekend. Wow, it's Tuesday. Okay, we're Ryan. What's up, my man?
Yeah, I got hit with it's Tuesday already when I woke up this morning as well after the weekend. But I'm doing well. I'm hoping that you're doing well, Kayla, and the move is going okay.
Moving sucks. It's awful. It's going about as well as it can, which is still awful.
I'm convinced that's why Kylian Mbappe wanted to stay in Paris. And I was like, moving's just such a hassle.
Yeah.
He already has his place. It's easier just to stay.
You act like he's not buying brand new furniture everywhere he goes. Phil, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. I am having flashbacks to the last couple of years where we moved across the country and then moved, apartment into the house. So like I'm very happy to just be past that. I all my thoughts are with you, man, in this tough time, because truly moving is just it's the worst.
For people who maybe are observant and can see behind me, I showed the guys before we started. I am currently standing at this random, this little nook in my bedroom. The only thing that's in my bedroom right now is a bed. No desk, no chair. So I'm standing. This is not one of those fun desks that I can move up and down. No, it's stuck at this one awkward height that I would say it's like just below the ribs. So it's not even like I can't even lean on it, right? It's awful. But we're not here to talk about my setup because it is something and a half, which I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. I'm in this tiny little box. So I'm just echoing. To me, I feel like I'm echoing 3 times. And it may not sound that way to you guys, but oh my God, it's driving me nuts. Anyway, I want to talk about last week. And there were some shockers, and the biggest shocking scoreline you guys actually talked about on the show live as it was happening last week. So we don't have to talk about New Mexico versus the Academy. But there were some other things that kind of caught the eye throughout the week, but definitely some stuff that you guys called last week as well. Phil, what's an I told you so, my man?
Well, I mean, gosh, this weekend served up a lot. I mean, in terms of I told you so's from last week, I don't know that I guess I was right about a couple of things, but this may have been, I will say, I'll give myself a little bit of credit. I moved above Allen in the relegation race in the pick'em. But no, I think one of the things we talked about last week was just we talked about the toughness of San Antonio and going to RGV and getting a win. So I don't think it's an I told you so, but I think maybe a few of the SA fans out there would say I told you so, because they kind of got like a very un-San Antonio result, if that makes sense. Like they saw out a little bit of a shootout. They got outpossessed, which we see, but outshot, outcreated, but they saw it through and scored a handful of goals. Justin Dillon and Mitch Tanner ending up in USL Team of the Week as a result. So yeah, I think this was one where maybe San Antonio proving us a little bit wrong, in that we have seen the 1-0s and we've seen the hey, let's see out a tough defensive game. But in this one, they went out and they grabbed the goals too to get past RGV, who put up a pretty tough fight, all things considered, and down to 10 by the end.
That was one of the bugs I had to eat from last week because I believed in RGV voodoo. I guess I was wrong, but then again, I also didn't think that San Antonio had 3 goals in them. And that sounds harsh because they have attacking players and offensive players like crazy, but they just never seem to go at it together. It always seems to be one goes in, scores, does the right thing, and they leave. But I didn't see this kind of performance coming, so I want to say that I still won that pick, even though I didn't. So that makes me feel better.
I mean, if you say for their 6-0 win over Monterey Bay, this is just the other time they've scored over 2 goals in a match in USL play this season.
And back then, that Monterey Bay was still a League 3 team, so that doesn't count either.
I will say I did lock this pick on San Antonio winning, which at the time I felt pretty #Austin Bold about it, but they did go down and left it late till 87 and got the result.
Yeah, I mean, good for San Antonio. And I mean, I'm just going to go ahead drop a shocker. I mean, I talked about League 3 Monterey Bay. They went to they switchbacks went to them. One of the two. I watched the match 4-2. That's shocking. And, kind of like John said, maybe there was a method to the madness out in Monterey Bay. Are we about to see an Oakland 2.0, or is the magic going to die?
They overperformed their XG. If you look at American Soccer Analysis, they had a 1.65, and Tulsa had a 2.68 out of that one. So they underperformed, but it just seemed like just one of those more chaotic games. And I'm also looking at it as this is a Colorado Springs team that hasn't played a game in like 2 weeks, just coming back from COVID. So they are going to be rusty, and they just happen to run into a Monterey Bay team who just happens to pick up results against some very good teams.
I think it's safe to say too. I mean, Chase Boone's goal is obviously kind of like icing on the cake because the game was more or less like in hand at that point. Even though Elvis Amo does kind of spare Colorado Springs blushes a little bit there at the end, but Chase Boone's goal, I think it is highlighting too just how different of a team this Monterey Bay side is with him in it. Because when he was missing, they did not look like this. And they just look a lot more dangerous with Chase Boone in there. And his goal, wow, what a finish as well. So yeah, I think John said it last week, and he, in his stead, I'll say John told you so in terms of going to Monterey Bay seems like a pretty tough prospect, even for some really good USL teams. And I think they probably will be a tougher, just a tougher out, or maybe a tougher 3 points at home and than what we've seen from this early, long road stretch while they waited for the stadium to open up.
They've beaten Louisville and Colorado Springs back to back. Yeah. The real test comes in 2 weeks again on June 11th, hosting San Antonio.
And then and that's when the one that you mentioned, there was a 6-0 loss. But I mean, that match was just, I don't know if you guys ended up watching that match. I subjected myself to it. that was pretty much the match that I was like, Monterey Bay needs to scrap whatever this is because it's not working. And then they decided to kind of not do that, and it worked out, which I don't know. That explains why I'm here talking about it. And, their coach, was it Yallop? Is that his name?
Yeah, Frank Yallop.
That's why he's
Chicago Fire legend.
Vancouver Whitecaps legend.
We're talking about Monterey Bay's coach, or are we talking about Tommy Sohn from down at the Legion? Because that's like the same timeline. That's wild. Everybody goes to the Whitecaps and the Fire to end their career. Everybody knows that. Whatever. Anyway, I don't really have an I told you so. I even when I went on to did my USL W League pick'ems, I missed a lot because I didn't predict draws. I mean, yeah, so everything was a shocker to me. Oh, and I told you so that I never actually said, but the biggest I told you so was that Legion got a horrible, ugly, good for nothing win. Like, that might be the most demotivated I've been after 3 points, our first 3 points in a long time, and somehow I feel worse. It's hard out here.
I don't know. I mean, going to New York, I'm trying to look for positives here for you. Like,
well, New York has been they're better than their record. I think they only have, despite how bad they've been, I think they have less than 110 minutes worth of game time of trailing. Like, they basically stay in games and then just lose at the end. And when they lose it big. So the score lines don't look that they look a lot worse than they are, but they're a tough team. But like, come on, guys. But we did get to see Matthew Corcoran come on. He's our 16-year-old professional. That was awesome. Meanwhile, you have Juan Agudelo missing a literal wide open net, which, yeah, I've seen that before. Anyway, before this turns into my venting session.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
I do at least want to mention that Red Bulls 2 have now lost 5 games in a row and have just 4 points on the season. So it was a result that Birmingham desperately needed, and we'll talk about later on the show, would be something to really kind of question job security if they didn't get one then.
Yeah, we'll get there. And honestly, I mean, I think that's a great transition to go ahead and get into it anyway. As you see, like I said at the top of the show too, hot streaks and hotter seats. We have a lot of situations right now of people who are on the hot seat. We have some situations early in the season where we thought some people were in the hot seat, but they weren't. Gio was having to calm down the Greenville Triumph crowd after they didn't get off to a perfect start. And people not necessarily were calling for Hark's head, who might be the future Charlotte FC coach. We'll find out. But it was like something, everybody over there in Greenville were like, this needs to change. Or, El Paso land, people were like, Hutchinson needs to be out. And hey, hands up in a minute. I was one of them. I hated what was going on over there. I thought it was horrible. And then somehow it's turned itself around to the point that Evan Newton's in Team of the Week doing the dang thing, which I could have told you that Evan Newton was a good goalkeeper, but that's beyond the point, I suppose. But we're starting to see lots of shouts for, fire the coach, fire the GM, fire the everyone. And when it gets this late in the season, you kind of have to listen to the fans a little bit, don't you?
I think it is. I think it is like it really depends on the situation, because a lot of these clubs the way that they're run is really varies a lot. And I think taking the Hutchinson, situation into account, I think it was always, their first manager was there for 3 years and only basically left like of his own accord. Like they would, they weren't going to sack Lowry after the playoffs last year. So I think like it was always likely to be a longer term thing. So I don't think, despite the fact that El Pasoans and Locomotive fans were getting a little bit itchy on that, like the proverbial panic button, which became like a little bit of a running joke on Seriously Loco, because we were like, well, what even is the panic button? Like, what does that even mean? So in this case, like, I think it really depends on what the coach has been brought in to do. If the club feels like, hey, this is the finished product and you should be going out there and making the playoffs and being competitive at the top of the conference, then they could be a little bit itchier on the trigger finger in terms of like sacking someone, because they said like, hey, we put a team together that should be competing and you're not. So there's that. Or in the case of a guy like Hutchinson or many coaches around the league who end up being both the manager and like the technical director, and they're assembling the roster as well, I think it gets a little bit tougher to pull the trigger there, because you're like, okay, well, now we're not just going to bring somebody in to coach the team. We're going to have to find someone they're going to want to put their own roster together and all that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of different things to take into account, but I don't know. I'm always one to preach patience. But I think like the thing that sticks out to me and the way that I kind of judged was like we said about Hutchinson, or, in some of these cases you say like, if the results and the stats are not matching up, then one is going to regress the other way. Like, so either the stats are going to start to suck or the results are going to start to get better. And if you have a case where a manager is overseeing something where the stats are bad and the results are bad, then yeah, like maybe it's time to like, you're like, okay, well, I don't foresee this getting any better. But I really do. I do think in most cases, patience is probably the answer. But what do I know?
I think the same, especially in lower league soccer here. That's always, like you had mentioned, Phil, okay, if we fire the manager, we could probably get another guy in to coach the team. If we fire the manager and the technical director, it makes it a bit more tough. That's always the question you have whenever you're looking at having someone basically their job at stake as, okay, what's the alternative? Is there a better prospect out there for us to lead the team forward, or are we willing to kind of just write off this season? I mean, if we're looking at USL right now, the most games someone has played has been 14 games, and that's just 41% of the season right now. We're barely a third of the way through, and usually you wouldn't see coaching changes unless you see a manager like willingly leave to go take another job elsewhere. Even though a lot of teams have probably kind of written their fates already for this season just based off of early season performance, I still think it's like incredibly early to consider sacking a coach, and especially in USL League One when they haven't even gotten to that third of the way point of that season.
Yeah, the reason that this kind of got brought up is, almost every single time that we post something from the USL show account, it's like, what do you want to hear on, this show? Or like, what are your thoughts on this week? And it's kind of become an ongoing meme. And is it our fault? It might be our fault, but people from FC Tulsa really want their coach out badly. It's getting loud. And the thing is, and I said this before, and I said this on a short show, the moment that, then this is something that I'm going to have to tread lightly here. But when you're a content creator, especially in these parts where most people are not making money, right? You are having to tread very, light water, to not step on anybody's toes, because the moment that you do, a lot of access gets revoked, right? There are content creators in Tulsa that are begging for the coach to be out. And for me, that is a big sign that things are bad, because I've had my gripes with Tommy Sohn. I've said that maybe we don't need to see a new coach, but he needs to evolve his tactics. And it's more than just changing up the shape, because changing tactics is more than the shape, because we've seen Legion throw out 5 different shapes this year and didn't change the tactics once. We basically just, if you actually watch the match and see like average positioning, we're running the same formation out there every single time. It's just different shapes at the beginning, which really means nothing, right? And I've said that there needs to be changes tactically, and I think Tommy Sohn can do that, but he hasn't shown that he can do that, so that's where I get my frustrations. But the moment that you have content creators, and especially out in Tulsa, where that's a good team that is big bad right now, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Tulsa's a kind of I was gonna bring up because we talked on the last show about the fact that there's a point where you start to think like, okay, is this Tulsa team just unlucky, or are they actually like underperforming? And I think when you look back on the last close to 2 full months now, and they have 2 wins, it's tough to like chalk all of that up to bad luck. And the one win is against what is a good Detroit City team, but then they've conceded 9 goals in the last 2 games, which I think like is probably it just hasn't been good enough from Tulsa. And I think at this point, fans, like when they're looking at that roster and where that roster's typically ended up in whether it's the West or the East or wherever they've been lining up, they've consistently been at least on the edge of the playoffs. And yeah, I think unfortunately Michael Ensian's time is just, it feels like it's just he's maybe running out of ideas a little bit with this squad, and it just isn't coming together for him. So,
and if you look at the next 6 games from Tulsa, you're looking at 4 of those 6 games feature teams currently in a playoff spot. You have Tampa Bay, Miami as these next 2, and it's just not going to get easier for the rest of the month.
No, and yeah, you think like hey, maybe if we're not defending super great, then the offense is really clicking, or if the offense isn't clicking, then we're defending well. But Tulsa's kind of doing neither of those things right now, at least not consistently. And yeah, it's just I don't know. I really do think that Michael Ensign is probably, I don't know, probably short for the Tulsa job, unfortunately.
And I think that's really tough because before there were bad results, but you could chalk it up to we have 4 players going away on international duty because, they love signing guys from El Salvador and, places like that where they're getting some of the best. And then, they go away and they lose some games and you could say, well, Rivas and, whomever, are gone, on international, take that as you will. They won't do that during the playoffs, which is normally true, right? But there hasn't been an international break for them because it's been World Cup qualifying. They've just been losing. And I think that excuse is gone, which is the only excuse that maybe has kept him. And I think fans are starting to get sick of it. And that's tough because I've heard nothing but good things about him as a human. And this is where it gets kind of hard. And I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but the idea of saying this person out or, get this person out of the lineup, there's a better person here in the lineup. When you start building these personal relationships with people, it sucks to say it's time to move on because there's a personal human side to it past the sports, which is, where we always get to is that sports are more than sports. There are people on the other side. And I feel like we come to that point, at least we say that on a show, like once every 2-3 weeks, but it's so true. Cause it's like, yeah, obviously Tulsa fans want to win, but so does he, and he wants to keep his job. It's just hard.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's a player, a manager, anyone at this point, I think they all have that desire to win. You don't get to this level of professional football without having that desire and will to want to win. And you could tell like all of them are like just trying really hard to do just the best they can. And sometimes it's just best for all parties to split up amicably or otherwise. But I don't think there should be any doubt from anyone to say that a player or a manager just isn't trying. They're all at least trying their hardest.
Yeah. So go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's funny. You run into that, and I think we've run into that in the past where there was a player from El Paso who missed a penalty in the Western Conference Final against Phoenix, and immediately after the game there was like a ton of vitriol, like from the fan base about like, oh, this guy like sucks or whatever, and it's just like, so it's Josue Aron Gomez who is the club's the club's top goal scorer, maybe not for long because Lucho Solaniak's hot on his heels, I think. But Gomez has scored a bunch of goals for the club. He's been there since the inaugural season, and part of the furniture. And we were defending him and kind of got caught between where it's like, hey, it's not like you went out there to do that on purpose. It's a penalty. Like it could happen to anybody, and it was very funny how like the human aspect, we're like, hey, we know this guy, he's super nice, like we would never like say this about him, like should he do better in this situation? Sure. Like, am I gonna yell like F this guy on the internet? Like, no, like there's no reason for that. So yeah, I think it, and for clubs too, like being able to understand that where we're coming from is purely from a like, does this feel like a good fit? Is it working? That's all we're looking at. Like, we're not trying to, make some comment about like whether a guy is a good dude or not.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think this is a topic that a lot of fans have had to think about for a while. But, let's move away from like failures of teams. Let's talk about some successes. Some really, really cool stuff to happen around all the USLs. Aurora had a sellout crowd at their match, which was awesome. Hearing the crowd on when they got their first goal was electric. The Green Bay ends up going back and drawing that match, but what was it? Almost 6,000 people at a W League match, which is incredible. Love to see that. And there's been some other good turnouts. Liberty has a pretty good pool. Those have been fun matches to watch as well. Going over to USL League Two, there's been some really fun stuff. Little Rock, I think, has been pulling close to 2,500 people at their matches, which for League Two, I mean, shoot, that's outdrawing some USL teams, USL Championship teams. One Knox, I think, just played 2 matches in the span of 48 hours, coming from behind to win both of them. So getting 6 points in less than 48 hours is nuts. And their match, they had 1,500 people there. That was fun to see. Maybe best kits in the USL. Check out Kit Season, shameless plug. And then Ryan wanted to bring it up. There was a banger in an awful game, but it was a heck of a highlight.
It's just one of those highlights that you always like to see, just kind of a feel-good story of Joe Kuzminski doing his best Allison Becker. Doing his best Allison Becker impression and getting a crucial, and I'd say much needed result for a Charleston Battery team that struggled all year. You could just tell how much it meant to him, to the team, just to get that tying goal. And he scored at 90+7, like at the very end of the game. And I'll have to actually go back and check. I'm not entirely sure when the last time we had a goalkeeper goal in USL was.
Matt Van Okel had a goalkeeper assist in the box like a year ago. He was in the box and then had a goalkeeper where he headed the ball back corner. It probably was going in, but then somebody stole his goal. Rude. But got the assist. We are living, and this is just me being biased and being salty, but we are living in a world where Joe Kuzminski, a Birmingham guy, has more open play goals than U.S. men's national team legend Juan Agudelo. So that's a stat that you guys know now.
I echo you though, Ryan. I think like we were talking about Charleston and how it just is sour there right now, and this feels like the type of moment where maybe they get a little bit of a boost. I'm not saying they're going to turn around and start lighting the league on fire or anything like that, but I hope that the guys in the locker room get a little bit of they have a little bit of a moment to latch onto, because they've had precious little to actually get excited about in Charleston. And so to have that now, what I will say is that there were a couple of Charleston fans in the mentions of USL's Team of the Week announcement when it was Evan Newton. They were very mad that Kuzminski got seemingly snubbed despite scoring a goal. I will say, having watched Evan Newton's performance, I would say it was Team of the Week worthy, but I can see why someone would argue for the goal-scoring goalie to be in the Team of the Week.
On one hand, and this is going to be rich coming from me, but I think my point still stands. On one hand, he scored against Loudon. On the other hand, Loudon scored against him, so it's kind of null and void.
If he had kept a clean sheet and scored, then certainly that's. I mean, how many keepers could even say that? Because Allison's goal comes at 1-1, so
even Tim Howard's 100-yard goal is still a 2-1 result.
So
and they
clean
lost
sheet and a goal
game.
Is extremely rare. They lost, yeah.
Everton
exactly.
That
did Begovic keep a clean sheet? I think he was the only other one. What was that? A Stoke City?
They lost to Bolton.
They lost,
Everton lost that one to Bolton.
Oh, okay.
Classic Bolton, keeping Tim Howard from getting clean sheets. If somebody who's from England might find their way across this and just had every memory of like the early 2000s brought back to them, like, whoa, hold on. Bolton was in the league? Oh, wait.
Can we, while we're talking about surprising things that happened in USL this week, can we talk about, and surprising goals in particular, I think we'd be remiss to not mention the howler of the week, which unfortunately comes at the expense of one of my favorite USL players, Mishak Jerome in Indy, which gave New Mexico United a 2-1, well, an eventual 2-1 win at at Indy. 2 shots on target. Only one of them actually went in for New Mexico, and the second is a gift. And I'm left feeling, not only is it a shocking goal to give away, but I'm left with a New Mexico meme, really, because like he can't keep getting away with this. Like I don't understand. They keep getting results even though all the numbers say like they shouldn't be, and I don't know. But yeah, absolute howler. That was rough for Mishak.
It's New Mexico, the anti El Paso, where the numbers say they shouldn't be winning, but they do. But the El Paso was the numbers are like, why aren't they winning? And you guys are just like, how about we give up 5 to Las Vegas?
Hey, this is a New
and then
Mexico
turn
team
around
with the
and keep a
best
clean sheet.
goal differential in the Western Conference right now.
That's so the USL was so stupid.
They're
I
one of
love
2
this
teams
league.
who are unbeaten in their last 5 games in the Western Conference, and they're the only one of those 2 teams in a playoff spot.
How about Phoenix's goal difference now negative? Which obviously I know why, and any Phoenix fans, I'm not condoning what occurred, but it's just funny to see a team in the top 4 with a negative goal difference.
Legion have them right where we want them, or something like that. We'll get there. Yeah, so we talked about other things. I mean, I want to bring up shocks of the week, and I always want to talk about USL League One, but like it's constantly shocking me. But in a weird way, it's not even shocking anymore. I don't get it. And do you know what really makes me mad? John, every single time he makes his stupid predictions, he's like, every single one of the stats say I should be picking against this. So I'm going to pick them anyway. And then I go and have the same mindset, and I'm wrong. But yeah, he's getting all the results. It makes no sense. How does he? I don't know.
Taylor, you missed all of the League One games last week.
Yes, I did, because I decided to go for chaos, but not the right chaos, apparently. Stupid. It's a stupid league, but I can't stop watching it.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Like, no one would think that Tucson would go into Tormenta and get a win, let alone down to 10 men to Tucson. So they score in the 36th minute. Tevin Shaw's sent off in the 38th, and they see it out against what, many people would point to Tormenta as one of the most complete squads in USL League One, and yet here we are.
Just 7 points separating first and last in League One at the moment.
I mean, I fully thought, because with this league, I sometimes tell myself, let's just go out there and let's pick, revenge games, because I feel like revenge games are a good way to go because everybody's so close. Eventually, if somebody's going to get theirs. So I decided to pick the Red Wolves at the Dispenza Geo. And then they just go and score, at the very end of the game, like 75th minute, and Triumph win. So there's no revenge game there. It's just Triumph winning again. And I don't get this league, and I'm trying to get it, but I don't think anybody gets it.
I mean, if you're going to talk about teams being in the top 4 with negative goal differential like Phoenix is, North Carolina FC is second in the league with a goal differential of 0. Central Valley Fuego has more
every single game, right?
Yeah, Central Valley Fuego has more draws than wins, and they're the only unbeaten. They're the only team unbeaten in their last 5 games.
So it's the craziness of when you say, "Oh, this team has scored in every single match in the season. They must have a wicked goal difference." It's 0. That is League One. That's the world we're living in, where there's a team that has scored in every single match and they have a goal difference of 0.
Union Omaha has a positive goal differential as second last of the league. Ford Madison still even has more draws than losses this year.
Yeah.
I love this league. I do. I hate predicting it. That's the reason I have a love-hate relationship with it. But as a pure neutral, it is just much watch television. So watch some more League One, people, because you don't know what's going to happen. I promise. I mean, hey, There is the talk that Harks might be going away, though. So, I mean, this is an MLS pod, but I mean, John Harks leaves for, not Chattanooga. That'd be a major turnaround. Charlotte. What do we think, boys? Like, who they even replace that with? Will we get another player coach?
I don't know. I feel like Harks wouldn't want to leave Greenville on poor footing or on bad terms. He may very well leave for a different job, but I don't think he would leave them and then leave the club like set up for not having somewhat of a plan of succession and kind of moving forward. So I don't know. And from at least from what I've heard, it seems like Charlotte wants to give the interim coach a chance and just see how they can do. So I don't think a move might be imminent. I think an MLS team would be crazy not to look into USL Championship or USL 1 to just see what available coaches there are.
Bob Lilly. Granted, Pitt's on a little bit of a slide right now, but that doesn't mean that Lily Ball doesn't, transcend leagues. Come on. Lily Ball is universal, and people just have to learn to live with it.
You're like, I bought my personal seat license to watch this, to watch him try to see out a 1-0 every day.
I pay $1,000 a year to watch another 0-0 win somehow for Pitt. This doesn't make sense.
Hey, the parade at the end of the season's fun.
Hey, wins a win. Yeah, that's.
God bless Lily Ball. Well, unless you guys have anything else from the week that was, you want to go ahead and get into some predictions?
I just think in terms of shocks, I promise I'll stop talking about a locomotive, but Vegas, the goal differential between 9 goals between Vegas and El Paso in the fixture in El Paso to going to Vegas and seeing out a 1-0, quite the change in the way these games played out, with maybe the weirdest red card that I've ever seen. Not obviously it was deserved, and I'm not arguing against it by any stretch of the imagination, but a player who clearly had no idea he was on a yellow getting sent off for a second yellow was truly something that I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah, very Rob Holding-esque.
Who's like, did you book me before?
Yeah, I mean, hey, welcome to watching USL League One. Fuego's not a bad watch. I mean, if you're looking for sexy footy, they are it. I mean, you called it, Phil, villain Vajev. I mean,
the villain himself.
He is so way too good to be in League One. I know that we don't know this, but I'm assuming, he gets to go back home and he probably makes a little chunk of change going back home. But Jesus Christ, someone get him out of that league. He is just way too good. This is like Corey Herzog going to Des Moines Menace. It's the same exact thing. Like, why was he there? He was there for 2 games in the Open Cup and then just left. It was that's the most Corey Herzog thing.
Refuses to elaborate, leaves.
Truly.
Oh yeah, Canseco had the halftime show where he was just hitting softballs. Man, Canseco doing random things to try to get out of debt has to be one of my favorite storylines in all of sports.
I would need to fly on the wall at that marketing meeting.
It was extremely. I don't know if there's any Eastbound and Down fans out there, but it was big Kenny Powers energy. Going into like a home run derby at the car dealership, like that's it really felt like that. But I was just enjoying the cognitive dissonance of like watching Jose Canseco hit softballs into the stands at halftime of a soccer match. That just, there was a lot to process, and it was at the end of the day, it was entertaining. I guess I don't know.
I totally like to think that Canseco's the one to approach them because they're the last business to not hear his sell pitch. Like, I'd like to think that he's been to every single casino, every single sporting event, everything. And he was just like, please, I will hit whatever, wherever, just let me do something. And Vegas was like, you know what? You got a deal, man. Now, were these even like autographed softballs, or was it just hitting softballs? Because if he didn't sign them, that I'd.
I don't think they were. I don't think they were autographed or anything. I don't know, because he hit like 50 of them. Like it was like he was up there for like 10 minutes.
I think we should bring back Canseco for the home run derby of MLB. They were autographed. Okay, awesome. I was about to say, we need to bring him back for the home run derby, but just to have him do that again. Have him
At
go
least
to
until the A's move to Las Vegas.
So good. This is again. I love the USL. But let's go ahead and get into some predictions. Let's start off with a little bit of Oakland versus Orange County. Ryan,
I don't know if you're Orange County. You're unbeaten in your last 5, but you have to be a little disappointed with how the season has gone. I know they kind of, I guess you could say, stumbled, or they found their way winning in the West and winning USL Cup last season. But you kind of have to be. I mean, it's not a lost cause yet. They're still 3 points out of having a playoff spot to themselves, but they could still very well kind of turn around their season. But really, there's not really like something that you could say it's been a positive start to the year. Or I don't know. I feel like you're going to just take a draw out of this one between Oakland and Orange County.
Yeah.
I picked Orange County to win this. I think anytime that I don't think Orange County travels particularly well headed east, if that makes sense. I think they've struggled when they've had to go very far, having to just go up to Oakland. I think maybe they can hang on to some of the magic, but the last game against Oakland played out to a 2-2 draw, so maybe it's not smart money to pick Orange County, but I just have to feel like there's more goals in this team than what they've done. And if they can replicate anything like the first, or I think they've played some very good halves, if that makes sense. They haven't played amazing games, but they've played some very good halves. And if they can put 2 very good halves together, this could be a very dangerous team again. And I think, yeah, I've got Orange County winning it, but I do think it'll be close in Oakland.
Yeah, granted, games in hand, whatever, but this does not feel like a match that is 11 versus 12 or whatever it is. I think it's 11 versus 12. This does not feel like one of those matches. It feels like Orange County is just far and away the better side. And I don't know, this still leaves me to wondering what Oakland's plan is, because they did this last year and then had this miracle turnaround, and I guess they expected the miracle turnaround to continue, but all they did was get the beginning of last year again. So I wonder what their plan is. Maybe this is the beginning of things changing, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. I'm going with Orange County on this one. We're moving on to Colorado, who is coming off of a loss to Monterey Bay, taking on a Las Vegas Lights team who can get results when you don't expect them and then lose when you don't expect it. I don't know. Just predict it.
It was a close meeting last time they played each other. Colorado Springs getting the 3-2 win, and so it's still certainly a team that can pick up a result when they need to. But this is a Las Vegas Lights team that has been a while without a victory of their own. You have to go all the way back to April 16th when they beat Pittsburgh. I think I saw for like the second year in a row, they didn't win a match in May. It's just like they've hit this weird spot of the season where they just can't pick up the results. And I think Colorado Springs, despite their loss to Monterey Bay this past week, they played a lot better than what they really indicated. And it was a team that was coming off of not playing a game for 2 weeks, and it's always going to find a difficulty to get back into that groove. I'm looking for them to win this match this week just to get their season back on track and to kickstart a basically new set of good form.
Yeah, I thought the same, Ryan. I think I actually have this pick as my lock, and I think it's just down to Light's lack of goal scoring form ever since Cal Jennings has basically been spending his days with LAFC now. Not to say that obviously Danny Trejo, he comes on late against El Paso, and he really did offer a ton of threat, I think, as would be expected with the man advantage, especially. But yeah, I just see this Colorado Springs team, putting this result behind them, and Lights having to go into Widener Field. I think Switchbacks take care of business at home against Lights.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a Colorado win. It's just hard to imagine Lights pulling this one off, but this also, like I said, is one of those matches that Lights would pull it off. I mean, to your point, Ryan, they're going to be in June. So, I mean, I guess the curse is over. Congratulations, Lights. But I think Colorado gets this one. Moving on, we have Pitt versus Detroit City. And yes, Detroit City fans, Pittsburgh did not beat you last time. You can stop flooding my mentions now. I don't even know where that came from. Because I listened to the last episode. I don't think you guys said that Pitt beat Detroit City, but by God, my mentions were full of it. So
I don't think so.
I don't know. Anyway, who's winning this one?
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh on this one, mainly for the fact that Pittsburgh, this is basically a battle of two teams who have arguably the toughest home field advantages to play in possibly the league. If you're looking at Pittsburgh, this is 5 wins this year. And the last time they conceded a goal was in their home opener against Hartford. They've been 410 consecutive minutes at home without conceding a goal. Now, granted, they've had some close chances. Their last time out at home was they needed a penalty save against El Paso to hold on to that 1-0 result. And it's a Pittsburgh team that they know how to get results at home. I look for them to pick up a game and get the win here against Detroit.
Every fiber of my being was screaming to pick a draw here, because we've got two extremely organized sides that like to play a very specific style, and but in the spirit of differentiation, I saw Pittsburgh picks going in, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with Detroit on this one just to try to mix it up a little bit. But I do think if there's a team that we've seen in the East that can go into Pittsburgh and kind of out organize a Bob Lilly team that is known for being organized, it is Trevor James, Detroit City. That is their whole thing. So I think if there's a team that can go and play a very disciplined game on the road, it's them. And I think we see a very cagey, physical battle. And it's going to probably be, 1-0 if there's a goal in it. Yeah, maybe someone like Openo or Mateo Faz has had some decent form for Detroit City recently as well. I think a lot of people were kind of writing him off as is he a USL Championship striker? It seems like he's come good. So I don't know. I think Detroit can really, I think they can give Pittsburgh problems is all I'll say in the way that they play a very specific and organized style. It's yeah, maybe they can out Lily. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a match. I've picked Detroit City here as well. Pitt's been on a weird slide lately. Granted, they'll get back to form and they'll go back to beating the world again, but I don't think that's this week, just to your same point of how organized Detroit City is. As a casual fan, this is probably not going to be an enjoyable match, but for some guys, maybe like John at USL Tactics, probably going to be a wet dream of just tactics to break down. It is just going to be full of just the juiciest stuff. So if you're a
one for the purists,
this is one that if you like to watch a chess match, you're going to watch a chess match, and there may not be a winner to this one, but I think there will be, and that's going to be Detroit City.
And I do look forward to that Northern Guard is going to take a picture of something around the stadium and send out some passive aggressive tweet. I'll Steel Army from Keyworth. So I'm sure we'll see some good banter around this one as well.
The streets of Twitter may not be the same. They probably will be, though. I mean, it's same crap, different week.
They'll be exactly the same. Yeah.
Next up, maybe match of the weekend, and that is Tampa Bay versus Lou City.
I mean, this is a game every season you have it circled on your calendar. It's just that game that you want to tune into to watch. These are two, basically, of the past few years, the heavyweights of the Eastern Conference going at each other. In fact, if you're looking back at previous results, you have to go all the way back to 2019 to find the last time Louisville had beaten Tampa Bay in a match, and go back to 2018 to find the last time Louisville beat Tampa Bay in a match at Outlaying. So this has been a very recently dominated by the Rowdies affair, and I feel like that's just how the form will continue. Tampa Bay will pick up a result here and make it 3 wins in a row.
I have this one going down as a draw, but I have it at, this is the type of heavyweight bout. Blows are going to be traded, and it's going to be. I think this is definitely one for the neutrals. Louisville City getting that palate cleanser against Tulsa, I think is probably good, because if they were coming into this match off the back of those couple of like wonky results, plus the disappointment in the Open Cup, all that stuff, like I do think that this would be a little bit trickier for them. I do think Louisville's got enough about them to give Tampa Bay some problems, but not enough to get the win. So I've got this one going down as a draw, but very dissimilar to how we talked about, Detroit, Pittsburgh. This is more so, the 2-2, 3-3, somewhere in there.
So I picked Lou City, but the more I thought about it, the more I think I wanted. I don't know what that was. The more I wanted to pick Tampa Bay, and this comes to a really random point of Legion just traded one of their best center backs to Tampa Bay, Thomas Van Kaziel. And this is a guy who's already played Lou City this year. This is a guy who's already gone against this side. The tactics haven't really changed since the last time they played each other. So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this Tampa Bay side has a little piece of information about how to play this team beyond just, the film. But despite the wonky results, and one of them against Monterey Bay, who is one of the best teams in the USL right now, weird. And then even though it was a disappointing Open Cup loss, I still think that was a loss that a lot of Lou City fans can walk away from saying, that was a dang good result despite what happened. I mean, the goal came in, 89th minute from what should have been last year's MLS MVP, but was snubbed for some ungodly reason. I mean, that's not a bad result. I think Lou City comes in with a ton of confidence and squeaks out I want to go with the scoreline here. I want to go a 2-1 revenge match to hopefully forget about last year's playoff tie, because yikes, that was rough. Next up.
Sorry, that's a bad goalkeeper celebration joke.
No.
Sorry.
That's tough.
Anyway.
Next up, we have Orange County versus New Mexico.
Oddly, these are both two of the only teams in the Western Conference right now who are unbeaten in their last 5. And we spoke about it earlier in the show, but New Mexico just is going to find ways to keep getting away with stuff. They're at an 11 goal differential right now, and a win here would take them all the way up to 3rd pending other results, and would make it 4 in a row, which is what I think they'll end up doing. And New Mexico hasn't lost a game on the road since April 16th, when that was against Phoenix, and even that was still just a 1-0 defeat. I think New Mexico gets the result here.
I have this one down as a draw as well. I'm trying to get smarter about picking draws. I think this is just two teams who don't score a lot of goals running into each other and not scoring a lot of goals. So I think a draw on the cards. But as long as OC don't put one in their own net, then I think they probably can at least get a 1-1 here.
I mean, this kind of goes back to one of my favorite titles we've had, and that came from Ryan, an unstoppable force meets a movable object. This is a case of, an unstoppable force meets an unstoppable force with two, pretty good defenses, and yet somehow the offenses aren't clicking. But New Mexico has the much better offensive firepower, so because of that, I picked New Mexico just based off of, the pedigree they have there. I do think New Mexico is going to be able to go and get a result. Sorry, Andy. Next up, we have Phoenix versus Legion.
You'll either thank all of us at the end of the week, Kaylor, or you'll have something to say, I told you so. But is it bad that we are 5 for 6 and locks on this pick for this week as a host? I think Phoenix will rebound from the 7-0 against New Mexico. You don't even factor that into their results. I think that's just something you write off. It is what it is and move on. But Phoenix gets the win, and I'm making it a lock.
Kaylor, you're welcome for not picking this as a lock, but I did still pick Phoenix. I think like Ryan said, they're more or less back to full strength, and I think they just have too much for a Legion side that's a little short on confidence going into Phoenix in June. Not the easiest task. So there's not going to be any water in the air, which I know out in the Southeast, like that lack of humidity can be jarring. And plus, I think this Phoenix team I think they'll have enough about them to see off Legion. Sorry.
This is going to be the second match of a 9-match streak of only having one game at home, and that comes next Wednesday. So that's going to be our only home match out of these 9-game stretch. We went and got the result against Baby Bulls. Was not convincing, but by God, we did it. Marlon goes out there, does the dang thing. And I just want to throw out a quick complaint because I know all the Baby Bull fans are going to be live in the chat right now. God, those announcers were killing me. I hate they kept the biggest one, Harivo. They kept calling him Hairvu, and it was killing me. It was making me so angry, and I'm just deflecting because my lock of the week is Phoenix. Get it together, boys. I don't see a way that Legion comes out there with the results, and I think there's a little bit. I don't know this, but I feel like there's going to be a little bit of eyes onto next Wednesday against local derby against Memphis. For a lot of fans, that is what they are circling this season, and some possible coaches on is next week. And I feel like the coaches and the players are feeling that pressure, so they may be overlooking a match against Phoenix. So I feel like it's not going to be pretty either. Moving on, please. We have Sacramento versus San Antonio.
Like Pittsburgh, Sacramento is actually unbeaten at home this year. Granted, they don't have a win at home since April 2nd, 2-1 against Monterey Bay, but that's certainly not anything to overlook for San Antonio. San Antonio team, which has had 6 wins on the road this year, a very stellar side. I think their one result was the loss to Phoenix away, but it's a team that's very capable of getting results away from home. You have to go back to September 18th was the last year is the last time San Antonio had beaten Sacramento in a match that was 1-0 away. And I don't know, I just feel like if you couple Sacramento's home form with San Antonio's very just good stellar play, you could be in for one of these really underrated classic games of the week that I think will end up as a draw.
I looking at Sacramento's form in the league, I think San Antonio come into this with just the more confidence, and maybe they've cracked the code a little bit on scoring some goals, and maybe adding a little bit of cushion to these games. Sacramento outside of the Open Cup hasn't been super impressive. A lot of their results recently have been pretty middling, and so I think San Antonio go on the road and get a win in this one to build off of the win in RGV.
Robert, I'm doing it. San Antonio goes out there, they get a result. So congratulations, Sacramento, on your win. Yeah, I think San Antonio, after showing they have some goals in them, I don't know why that was the point that I needed to really believe in San Antonio, but going and winning a shootout, because we've seen them score goals, but again, that was against Monterey Bay, where they weren't doing anything to fight back. It was one of the more sad things I've watched recently, to be honest. But now that we've seen, San Antonio go and win a shootout, it shows they have the ability to not only score but do it when it matters. And I think we're going to see that on display come Sacramento. I think San Antonio walks away with the result. Next up, I have lost the chat. I know who I picked to win, though. It's Richmond Kickers versus the Chattanooga Red Wolves.
These two teams in League One right now in their last 5 games has identical form of just 1 win, 1 draw, and 3 losses. A win from Richmond would find them back above the playoff line, even on points with Chattanooga on 11, whereas a win from Chattanooga could see them go all the way into top of the league, just kind of still proving again how close League One is at the moment. But I'm going with the hosts here. I'm going with Richmond to get a result and get the win here tomorrow night.
I picked this one as a draw. Also, I was feeling very equivocating this week. No, I think with the way that it's gone, like form wise for these teams, it's extremely difficult to pick a winner. And I think I can't help but think that this Richmond side continues to underperform. So yeah, I think they get a draw. And maybe they can start to build some level of consistency, maybe some stability. I don't know, but yeah, I think Richmond and Red Wolves draw in this one.
Yeah, this is every fiber of my being told me that Richmond was going to win this match, and so I picked Chattanooga. Because League One, I have no other explanation for it. If Richmond wins, that's going to be an internal "I told you so," but also "Why didn't you pick it, you fool?" But yeah, I think that Chattanooga rebounds after the Greenville loss. I think Richmond are sputtering a little bit, which tells me that Richmond should win this, but who knows? Next up, another Richmond match. We have Richmond going against Tormenta.
Tormenta has won every single game they've played on the road in the league this year and has yet to get a win at home this season. One of those that it just really doesn't make sense for normal results within the league. Like the only thing that gives me Tormenta with pause at the moment is that they haven't scored in their last 2 games and were just shut out by arguably the worst team in the league at the moment within FC Tucson. However, I still think their road form is very good. And like you had mentioned, Richmond has been sputtering at the moment. So I still think it's going to be Tormenta to get a win here.
Yeah, I've got Tormenta as well, and I think it is just for whatever reason they've got that magic touch when they leave Georgia. But yeah, that's why I think Tormenta go to Richmond and get it done.
Again, every fiber of my being says Tormenta wins this game, which is why I picked Richmond. I think that's how I'm going to pick these League One matches from now on. I think that's going to give me better results. I still believe in Richmond. I do. I think Richmond at home is going to be a great place for them to be. I think they're going to have the support at their back. And Tormenta is still a great side, but this just feels like one of those moments that Richmond kind of proves the class that I think they are. Not saying Tormenta is bad by any stretch, but I do think Richmond, I think I might have picked them as my favorite to win it all this year. So that I'm still kind of riding off of the back of that. Next up, we have Triumph versus the Independents.
These are 2 teams that also have identical form coming in, including the identical order in which they have gotten them, going from the furthest away to the most recent. That's a win, a draw, a win, a loss, and a win. So, I mean,
what are the odds? Like, what are even the odds of that? I don't
This
know.
league.
To be fair, this is a Triumph team that if they get the result here, they could also go into a tie for the lead with Charlotte if they pick up all 3 points and other results go their way, which is what I think they'll do. I think Greenville gets a victory here. They continue to kind of rebound at home, and I think they pick up the win.
Yeah, I think I went with Greenville winning as well, and I think it's, they build some momentum off the back of what was a really good result away in Chattanooga last Saturday. Even though it was just a 1-0 win, 1-0 wins on the road are, like gold in a league like this. So, well, unless you're Tormenta and then you only win on the road. So anyways, but I do think Greenville coming home, Charlotte, maybe Charlotte's on a bit of a regression to the mean, and Greenville's picking back up to where we all kind of thought they would be towards the top. So yeah, I think Greenville picks up the win.
Yeah, it's a Greenville here as well. I think that Greenville is a great side, and I think I'm kind of with you on Charlotte. I think that they're going to have a bit of that regression to the mean. And we were all stunned when they got out to the start that they did, and I'm still a little shocked that it's still going. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and take the Triumph. Finally, we have the Chattanooga Red Wolves versus MLS Slayer Union Omaha, which their GM came onto our show and told us it was going to happen like 3 months ago. He said that they could go out and beat anybody.
He even requested Chicago by name.
He sure did. So
WWE style. That's how we should do pairings in the Open Cup.
have cut promos on, dude, that'd be so good. Better than whatever it is now, whatever the draw is.
Pick your own opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Just call out, just GM and coach call outs.
That'd be more fun to watch. I mean, who would probably have the best call? I mean, Las Vegas would have something fun. I mean, they can't because of LA, but it would be electric. Who else would have a good call out? I don't know.
These are free ideas for U.S. soccer.
Yeah,
these are free ideas.
This is, yeah.
All right.
Marketing consultants.
Red Wolves versus Omaha.
I don't know. This is a really just kind of interesting match. You're looking at a Union Omaha team who still, despite their success in the Open Cup, which I think has been carrying them through a lot of it, if you're looking back into their league form, they still don't have a win away from home this season. And this is now their 5th game away. The Red Wolves kind of, I think it'll very much kind of depend on how this match tomorrow night against Richmond goes, on what kind of dictates the weekend. The one previously was a 1-0 defeat at home to Greenville Triumph, and that was actually the first time that they had been shut out at home all season. And that was against a team that's now beat them twice this year. So I think it's going to be a really interesting match to kind of watch, but it wouldn't surprise me if this one ended up as a draw. And also, I need Union Omaha to start picking up other results. But I do need Union Omaha to pick up other results besides a draw, because the circle of parity isn't complete, and they're the linchpin in all of this.
I do like that Union Omaha is turning into like the Eintracht Frankfurt of USL League One. Of they're going out and winning these like huge matchups, and going on the road and like putting on an absolute show in Chicago, in Minnesota, like winning these big games, and then coming back and being like below average in League One. I do think they'll ride a little bit of a wave though from this result in Minnesota, and I think they'll end up actually getting a win and kind of piling on Red Wolves here. So I think Omaha bounced back, and I don't know. I don't think that their league form will continue to be as middling as it's been.
The old FC Cincinnati, where they go on a memorable cup run, finish 8th in the league because, of course, they did. But I do think Union Omaha is better than that. Because of that, I did pick Union Omaha. The more and more that I've been seeing out of them, this is such an underrated thing, and you can't really put a stat to it, but the swagger of Union Omaha seeps through everything that they do. You can tell when they go on the pitch that they think they are the biggest, baddest MFers out there. And that's hard to beat, especially against a team that if you watch this last match against Greenville, these sad boys, they look like sad boys. They looked dejected, and obviously they're losing. You aren't happy, but I think the swagger alone of Omaha is just at an all-time high, and it's hard to knock them off of that. But I think that's all the picks. We end up having 11 this week because I don't know how to count. So we get bonus ones after a few cancellations in weeks past. So I guess it all evens out eventually.
Have to make up the standings somehow.
Somehow I'm going to fall even lower onto this list. I started off so hot, and then it all came crashing and crashing down. It's so unfortunate. But anyway, I think that's about it. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Anybody in the chat have anything you guys want to throw out there? Yeah. No? Cool. All right. Well, we got some closing thoughts for the day. I'm going to start off with Phil.
Obviously, little still licking my wounds a little bit from the result in the Champions League final. So, you know, I was enjoying just some of the parade and all that from Liverpool. Still good to see the team and the city get to celebrate what was still a great season, regardless of that game in particular. Yeah, the long weekend summer has appeared in the Midwest, so trying to take advantage of the nice weather while it's out here. You know, we get the couple of months couple of weeks where we get to see the sun, get to try to get a tan and stuff. So yeah, just trying to take advantage of what's been some nice weather out here in Ohio for once. So.
Next up, we have the next manager of Charlotte FC, Mr. Ryan Allen.
I mean, I took Venice to a Europa League title in Football Manager last year, so let's see what I can do at the helm.
How have your Triumph been doing, by the way?
I am into the League One title game with that one. I haven't played that one yet. So
call them up.
But yeah, I guess my one thing to speak on this week is that Kenobi, the first 2 episodes have been quite good. I enjoyed watching the kind of opener, and apparently it was the largest opener of any original series show on the platform. So I'm looking forward to episode 3 tomorrow.
Nice. I am currently getting caught up on Stranger Things. I didn't watch season 3, so I'm watching season 3 right now. So I'm stoked for that. I'm also, tomorrow's my last day of moving. I'm going to Birmingham, so this is going to be fun for a little bit. I am somewhat excited. I mean, it's been weird to record all my things and have all these memories of the house, but then again, having to not drive back and forth to Birmingham is awesome. Saves a lot of gas, which need to do right now. So I'm ready for this move to be over with. I think I said I was going to start doing a piece of music every week. I have a short one for you guys. It's only about 10 minutes. Look up a piece called Finlandia by Sibelius. It's only about 10 minutes long, and it is an absolute heater. It's good stuff. So that's my recommendation of the week. Anything else from you guys? Cool.
Oh.
Well, even though he is not here, he is here in spirit. Go ahead and cue Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. This and every episode is brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. Find podcasts and other written work at bgn.fm. Once again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys again next week.